Welcome back to Truck Tech, everyone. This week coming to you from Albuquerque, New Mexico, and the Torc Robotics Testing Center for autonomous trucks. You can see them behind me, as well as the beautiful mountains here in the high desert country. This show will get into what Daimler Truck and Torc are doing together to make autonomy for real, not just trucks, but everything that goes into it. And we'll get into that with some of our guests today, which include Joanna Butler, who is the head of autonomous vehicles for all of Daimler Truck, autonomous programs. And we'll also talk to Peter von Schmidt, who is the CEO of Torc Robotics and formerly had the job that Joanna has. And we'll catch up briefly on some of the customer issues and some of the customer testing that's going on with Torc vehicles from Andrew Cohen, who's the head of strategy for Torc. So we hope you enjoy the show. Nice. Welcome back to Truck Tech. I'm here with Joanna Butler, who is the global head of autonomous vehicle technology for Daimler Truck. We are in Albuquerque, New Mexico for some time with the Torc truck and the Torc people. Opportunity, Joanna, great to see you again. I don't think we've seen you since Manifest, yes. I believe was earlier this year. Correct. But just a great opportunity to get caught up a little bit on where, not just where Torc is, because we'll have an opportunity to get into that, but I want to get a good understanding of how you're approaching overall autonomy at Daimler Truck now in this role. You haven't been in it that long.
Absolutely, yes. So first of all, thank you for having me. Super excited to be on your program. Where are we at? So I would say we really have a great strategy, and we've been staying that course over the past couple years, and with a clear roadmap and ingredients, how to get really to autonomy and release this as a product. We have just announced market entry by 2027. We feel we are really well on our way. So let me give you a couple of examples what we're doing from a global perspective or Daimler Truck perspective. So first of all, we said we want to have a focused use case, and we targeted the US market first, and we stay laser focused on that, targeting what we call hub-to-hub on highway driving. Here working very closely with Torc Robotics on realizing that vision. When we talk about hub-to-hub, what does that mean? Imagine these are locations where the autonomous vehicle can be received and launched from. That could be a transfer hub, it could be maybe a distribution center. It is a location that is within our operational design domain, and the vehicle can actually reach, develop the freight to, and depart from as well.
Torc Robotics mostly acquired by Daimler in 2019, independent subsidiary, and yet it feels like there's quite a business case now that's being developed. And of course, this is Peter von Schmidt's space, and so we'll get into that with him a little bit. But I think it's really important to understand just how you see this development. You have something built in that a lot of the competition doesn't, and that's a customer base, a really large customer base. I think you used the term 80 billion tons of freight or something like that. I mean, it's enormous.
Yes.
What you're trying to do. So put that into some perspective if you could. You don't have to worry about the whole world. You just have to worry about those customers, right?
Well, we worry about all our customers, but as we go to market with this technology, we definitely work with what we would call early adopters. And that customer base helps us to understand how autonomous technology can really realize the benefits that we have communicated. How can we make their operations more efficient? How can we make it safer? How do we help them really keep freight moving? How do we help them offset driver shortage or other constraints that they see today? And so those conversations are happening today in a forum that we call the Torc Autonomous Advisory Council. Our largest fleets are participating in that. And so those learnings also inform the development and the technology. And yes, through Daimler, we have about 60% market share in that target market, on highway long haul driving. That is obviously a perfect place also for Torc to be integrated. And we have those trusted long-term relationships with customers, and bringing in Torc as a partner into that relationship is really critical. And they just have invaluable learnings from all those conversations.
I think the other thing, we've had an opportunity to spend a little bit of time looking at this since we've been here, and that is this idea now of the true integrated chassis and the true truck. This idea of, we talk about redundancy all the time. I don't know if people really get it when we talk about it, but you're now pointing to 4 or 5 areas that are just critical that you have, and you've now integrated those and are ready to launch it into the Torc product.
Absolutely, yeah. So the foundation for what we say any level 4 driving is a safe and reliable redundant platform. So our autonomous ready Cascadia has redundancy systems in the safety critical areas of steering, braking, power net, so your power generation, power distribution, and also your EE architecture. So imagine if you would have, for example, a steering motor error. Today, you only have one steering motor in a level 2 system, for example. In the future, you'll have 2 steering motors, both operating at the same time. If one fails, you have immediately a backup system that can take over, because why? You have a system, a level 4 system doesn't have any human intervention. So instead of a human taking over and steering the vehicle hydraulically, you now have an electronic backup system. And that's why that's so critical to have those systems identified that are safety relevant and as the foundation for level 4 driving.
When we think about the term that's often used in the industry is fallback, when there is a problem and you get to the side of the road safely and that sort of thing, you have a little different approach to that. This idea of, I want to call it limp home. I think I use that term, but
Yes.
but the idea is that you need to be able to keep going for 20 minutes or up to 20 minutes to do what?
Let me elaborate on that a little bit. So yeah, we do not call it limp home, but we call it fail operational, which means if there is a failure, we need to execute a minimum risk maneuver, bring the truck to a safe stop on the side of the road. To be very exact, the truck needs to actually execute the safest maneuver possible for the situation, which in most cases will be fail operational to come to a safe stop. The 20 minutes come into play when it comes to stored power. So in case, let's say our alternator fails, so the system that generates power in the vehicle, we still have about 20 minutes of stored power through an additional set of batteries that we have spec'd
And
the
this
truck
would
with.
presumably get you to an off-ramp and then to a even safer place than, say, the side of the road, because as I think you said, the side of the road isn't always the safest place.
Yes, so the vehicle and in combination actually with mission control will then decide where the safest location for that stop and rescue and recovery is.
From a global perspective, I think, the roads in the US, the broader roads and things like that are obviously better suited to starting with autonomy. But Torc does have operations in Europe, and you are looking at things elsewhere. Can you talk a little bit about maybe where next? Is there such a thing as that?
Yeah, so let me start with how we actually designed the platform, the vehicle platform, and even the autonomy platform, I would say, and that is with scalability in mind. So the components that we're releasing for the United States are actually global components that can work just as well in a Mercedes-Benz truck. So today we're focused on Freightliner Cascadia. In the future, I won't say when, we may also implement this technology in a Mercedes-Benz Actros, for example. So already keeping the next step in mind as we develop this technology is quite critical. So once we have the first market launch here in the US, we can scale rather fast into other markets, other locations. Just to give you one other market that we're looking at, Europe, for example, we're right now looking at what the business case prerequisites would be, the regulatory framework, and the customer base that is in Europe, and that this technology would be suitable for. In the US, we started this because we saw a huge opportunity from a safety perspective, from a freight efficiency perspective, and absolutely from a business case perspective. And that's the same way we would approach any other market.
Torc has been interesting, and Daimler, by extension, has been interesting in that this has never been a race for you. This has never been get there first or anything like that. You've now said 2027 for commercial entry, and I presume that means I-40 here in the New Mexico over to Texas. And
the Southwest region, yeah.
area.
We have actually a network that we will launch in 2027.
Yeah. So you actually have now put a date on it, and maybe that's perhaps even a little more realistic in a sense, because we do have some competitors that say end of 2024 they want to do limited commercial routing. They've done some things that I know you all are still working on, or they've talked about things that you're still working on. Do you feel that, again, your situation is different? You've got this customer base, and it becomes a point of optionality. I hate that word. It's an option, right? I mean, for some of your customers, this will be an option, just like ordering anything else on a truck.
Absolutely. So I think there's two aspects to what you just said. So first of all, we always said it's a marathon, not a sprint. I'm actually right now training for a marathon. So now I know exactly what this statement means, which you have to have a training plan and you have to stick to it. That's our roadmap, right? We have a roadmap. We know how we're going to develop and roll out, test and validate safely, and we're sticking to it and we're doing good progress. So 2027, why did we communicate this date now? Because we have confidence that this is the first time that we can introduce this technology in a safe and reliable manner to our early adopters, customers.
Right. You've talked about powertrain agnostic. Mm-hmm. The first trucks will be diesel trucks.
Yeah.
Ultimately,
absolutely.
They're not going to be because, down the road. You're doing a lot of work, obviously, with the Cascadia and things like that. It's interesting that, one of your test customers right now is Schneider. Schneider has a very large electric facility, charging facility. They just opened in the El Monte, California area. Does it make sense then to begin to work with the customers individually, or is the switch over to other sources of power something that is done more behind the scenes?
So also here, we're looking at what is the use case that we're tackling, what is the available propulsion technology and the use case that we're tackling. We're tackling long distances, long haul driving. Today, diesel is the predominant technology. That's what we're basing autonomy on as well. In the future, as zero emissions technology further develops, ranges increase, of course, we want to also be able to plug into that. We really believe in driving sustainable transportation, leading sustainable transportation, and that would absolutely entail also having a low emission, zero emission offering for autonomy when the time is right for that. Again, I will repeat myself, setting the foundation now in terms of developing the systems in a way that they could be agnostic or easily adapted to other propulsion technologies. Take, for example, motion control, your powertrain controller and the logic that operates today in our what we call CPC, so our common powertrain controller that works with a diesel truck. That logic can also be implemented into the powertrain controller or electric motor controller of future vehicles. And so always keeping in mind being one step ahead in the development process to be ready when the technology is ready, when our customers are ready. And again, as you mentioned, customer input and customer feedback, also as we develop that, ensuring, for example, that we keep electric infrastructure in mind and look at how are we going to scale our autonomous infrastructure, where will this charging infrastructure develop, and making sure that once we're ready, it's also going to be easy for our customers to combine both technologies together.
Sure. Joanna, great to catch up. Thank you so much for coming by.
Good to see you, Alan. Yep. Thank you.
Peter von Schmidt, great to see you again. It has been a little bit of time, but we did spend some time talking about your first days here at Torc. You've been here now going on a year and a half, is that right?
Yeah, that's right.
And you've got quite a bit to show. I mean, right behind us, you've got a nice fleet. I know you've had some of these trucks, but what's interesting is they're going to go away, right? They're not going to be here much longer.
Yeah, it's a little bit sad, but we will sunset them by end of the year and then introduce the next generation. It's typical product development process. You start out with advanced engineering and research, and then you find your final setup. And our vision is really that we create a scalable, profitable product. So we really need production intent, sensors, computes on the final version of a fully redundant chassis, and all this conversion to the final setup. This is then also ready for prime time, the launch in 2027. This conversion takes place right now, and they will come then into our fleet beginning of next year.
2027, it still takes some time to do, I don't know if the word shakeout is correct, but you need to make sure that everything that you're getting from these suppliers and that you're integrating, that you're able to do it both for yourselves and for the ultimate customer, right? The fleets and things like that. That takes some time.
Oh, yeah. It's just working on the hardware itself so that it's ready to be built in Daimler Truck's assembly plants. And that takes a lot of preparation so that everything is mature and can be built in there. And by the way, nothing will beat the quality and the cost that comes out of an assembly plant, and that's what you ultimately want. But there's a lot more things that we need to do. There's a lot of things that we need to further develop our software to our final goal. So we know what does it take to remove a safety driver by 27, and we're working towards this, but there's still some work left. But then also everything else, preparing our customers how to use this technology. There needs to be emission control, there need to be departure checks, there need to be an arrival, all the on-road health checks that need to take care. There's a lot of things that still need to be finalized until technology is ready for prime time.
One of the things that you gain from having, building the trucks in your plant and that sort of thing is, I think you've discussed maybe a 1-year payback. They're going to be more expensive than a standard truck. We know that, but you said not crazy expensive. It's going to be, an opportunity to get the payback on this relatively quickly. Can you elaborate a little bit?
Yeah, our go-to-market strategy will be a pretty traditional one. You buy a truck from Daimler Trucks, Freightliner, and you buy the virtual driver from us as a subscription. And we want to meet price points. The truck carries a lot more technology, as you see, but the price up should be moderate so that the fleet has really a payback time of 1 year. And I think this will then drive the acceptance of customers.
Well, you're already working with some of the bigger fleets now with Schneider and with CR England and doing some work now. Can you kind of describe what they're working on with you? It's not, as you said, that they're not just hauling cement block, they're actually hauling real freight, not so much for revenue purposes, but just to get a feel for it. Can you take us through a little bit of what they're doing and what those specific workouts are?
Yeah, I think the most interesting thing for fleets is really, they have no doubts that we unlock this technology, but what does it really mean for them? As you know, labor shortage doesn't only mean there's driver shortage, there's also technician shortage. So what does it mean for their maintenance? How do they need to train up their technicians? How reliable and robust is this technology? But also, how does it need to be operated on the hub during the mission? How does our system seamlessly integrate into their systems so they can manage a mixed fleet out of manual driven and automated trucks out of their today's systems? And there's a lot of things where the customers are really interested. And then, of course, understand on which lane is the most profitable to be used first. So call it a TCO calculator that I really can say, okay, I want to launch it first on this lane and then this lane next. And here it's most suited.
Well, and we talk from time to time, almost all the time it comes to is density of lanes. You want to have enough freight to make it worthwhile. The lane has to be long enough to where it's something that, has a payback to it. I think you've said over 200 miles, and I think most would agree with that. We see a lot of attention right now to I-45, Dallas to Houston, very freight dense route, but not a terribly profitable one because you're not going all that far and you have to extend out from there. So I presume that's what your fleets, the fleets you're working with, are looking at, is how can we get a longer route where we can actually, make some money at it.
Yeah, I think the fleets have a really, really good feeling for where does this technology add the most value for them. We are developing technology that doesn't work only on one lane, so it's more or less a feature set that we are developing that should work I-40,000 everything. And then we will focus on what the customer needs most. So this might be a connection to Mexico first. We get a lot of ask here. And of course, we should be able to not only serve one hub in one city, but multiple hubs per city, so that it is a real product that can scale. That's the main purpose. And we get so much valuable input from our customers where to focus our energies, but also what needs to be there so that it's a meaningful product, not just a tech demonstrator to them.
We saw this before when Daimler got heavy into electrification. You brought together a lot of stakeholders, basically, and created a group to get information from. Daimler did, and it seems that's the same play now that's happening with Autonomy. That is, bring the people in who can tell you what they need, but also can sort of help you in a general kind of way. Is that accurate?
Yeah, and it worked out. Why not just doing it again?
Yeah.
So it worked for electric. Why not trying to do it with autonomous? And the fleets know their business best. And it's all about, we don't want to deploy a technology. We need to develop a product and a business that they can use. And so better talk to them.
Sure.
And they have the right advice for us.
Right.
And it's, by the way, fun. I mean, we're trying to help them to make their business better and more profitable down the road so that they can be faster, that they can be safe, that they can operate at lower cost. So we really want to help them to elevate their business.
There's no science project involved any longer in autonomy for Daimler, is there? I mean, this is all about building a product and building a business now.
Yeah, that's why we also always said, hey, we want to launch towards end of the decade, and we were more details at 27, because we thought by then we have everything together. The truck, sensor and compute, software, the ecosystem. The research and science part is more than on the next generation. What would it take to expand capabilities? So there's still a lot of research on, or of course, I mean, a lot of new technology like generative AI is in the development.
Sure.
How to put this in, to bring costs down, to scale even more. So we also work on these things, but let's say 95% of our resources really on launching a product. And of course, we are also looking again to the next horizon.
Right. Well, we can't see those trucks today. That's fair, I guess. But the fact is, they're going to look a lot like normal Freightliner trucks. They won't have that sort of, the spinning lidars and things like that. These called the unibrow across the top, and things like that. They're going to look like pretty much normal trucks.
Yeah, I mean that's a dream, and we also try to keep it as close as possible to normal trucks, but of course we are also adding a lot of stuff in an aerodynamic fashion. So I think an outsider will recognize it looks a little bit different, like those trucks. I mean, look a little bit different, but not too much.
Yeah.
So that's our purpose.
Yeah, very good. Peter, thanks so much for the time. Appreciate it.
Thank you for being in Albuquerque.
All right, thanks.
Thanks.
So Andrew Cohen, it's really interesting having listened to some of the shippers and some of the carriers now that are testing on this route from Phoenix out to Oklahoma City with the Torc trucks. Their experiences are pretty interesting. They're very praiseworthy of what's happening. What are you hearing that is making you kind of go back to the team and say, we need to work on this?
Yeah, the best part of the feedback is actually really interesting, and that it all, if you take all the conversations we've had over the last day here, it comes down to trust, transparency, and communication. And so I think the biggest bit of feedback is that we're building that trust, both with the carriers, with the shippers, with their workforce, and having that clear communication about what these technologies and what these trucks can do and can't do. And that trust goes both ways. They can give us that feedback and give us really candid input around, hey, this piece of the product, whether it's TMS integration or mission control, needs to evolve in a certain way. And that's the best feedback we have, is that back and forth there.
One of the things that clearly they've done is they influenced you in terms of where that first route's going to be. You call it the MVP. I don't know if that really means MVP or not, but where that MVP route is going to be from sort of Laredo up to the Dallas area, right? Is this something, with all of the nearshoring and things like that we're hearing about now? Is this something that surprised you? Or you expected that to happen?
I wouldn't say surprised us, right? We've seen these trends going for a while, but again, if you step back, we are experts in building autonomous trucks and all of the tools to support it. They're experts in moving freight in the freight industry. And so it's great to get that direct feedback from them, but we would never pretend to know more than a Schneider or a CR England about freight flows and freight operations, right? That's what they're experts in. And so it's great that we can get that feedback and adjust our development plans to meet the market need.
Yeah. The idea that they are already starting to do some of the ancillary, maybe that's not the right word, but the ancillary things that are important, you mentioned TMS, and get some of the, I think you used the term personas identified. What do these jobs really mean? Can you talk about that a little bit in terms of just, a dispatcher might still be a dispatcher, but doing something different?
Yeah, we talked about those extra job functions or kind of opportunities to grow and change those roles. And it really kind of comes down to the fact that, as they would tell us, the truck is our problem, right? We have to solve getting that truck down the road. But what we have to solve together is all of the workforce training, change management, how these things integrate, because that's what's really going to go from running a few trucks to scaling up that operation. And so, dispatchers are a great example. We have a role, which is mission control. What do they do in their job today? How can we train and develop tools that let them operate autonomous trucks in the future? A similar conversation downstairs around integration with TMS. How does that planner connect up with the TMS and understand the capabilities and limitations of autonomous trucks and roll that into their planning process as well?
Well, folks, we hope you enjoyed the show today coming from Albuquerque. As I've said many times, we'd love to get out on the road and bring you what's going on both in the autonomous space, electrification, and the other areas of technology that we cover at Truck Tech. You can catch this episode. Obviously, if you didn't see it live, you can catch it on the FreightWaves YouTube channel. Go to shows and then go to Truck Tech, and you'll see a playlist of all the episodes that we've got in there for you. We also have our newsletter, which will have a little bit more about this on Friday, a fuller interview with Andrew Culhane that gets into a lot of the strategy that has gone into what Torc is working on. So we hope you'll either subscribe to that. You can also catch that at 11 o'clock Eastern. It'll post on the FreightWaves website. So in any case, catch what we're up to. We really want we want your feedback. We want to hear from you about it. And thanks for joining.